Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 1090 Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all rocking with me. And for this video, we're going to be speaking on rich homie Quan snitching. At this point, I'm not even surprised. Not only has more paperwork dropped in the YSL case, but an audio recording just dropped of none other than rich homie Quan spitting a whole verse to law enforcement about Young Thug.
Right. So my hand was on the spot. I saw it. We had a show together. I'm like, I'm just asking yourself. Everybody been talking about it. I'm gonna just be a man and answer myself. Right. It's crazy, man. Those doors had something to do with it. We just can't prove. Right. Point blank period. I ain't no rat. I ain't telling no. I'm just being real with y'all. I got how much I love and let, man. You know what I'm saying? Like that shit real fucked up, bro.
While it may be hard for some to understand rich homie speaking a language native to the streets of Atlanta, what he's speaking on is the very murder that would cause the fall of YSL.
I got one of the biggest bloods in America with me, my you did, Atlanta, Georgia.
There are shell casings up and down the street. Now, I'm told one of the men who was shot, a man in his mid-20s, is in critical condition, but that his status could change for the worse overnight.
Rich homie Quan's former manager, Donovan Thomas, who went by the name Peanut or Big Nut, was a member of the Inglewood family Bloods. His 2015 assassination outside of an Atlanta barbershop would result in a back and forth war between Inglewood family and Sex Money Murder. The majority of the violence would be documented in the YSL indictment. Prosecutors allege Young Thug was in communications with Sex Money Murder leader Kyle Ory, who's currently serving a life sentence in Georgia State Prison. Big Nut was said to have snitched against members of the gang, and prosecutors allege Young Thug orchestrated his death by renting the vehicle YSL members would later use to commit the drive-by that took Nut's life. After the hit, Thug and the alleged shooters would take a trip to Miami to lay low. Rich homie Quan would speak with investigators explaining he never saw Thug in Atlanta after the murder. He was going to confront him at a Miami show over the rumors that Thug played a part in Nut's death. Rich homie would allege people knew Thug had something to do with it, but they couldn't prove it. He'd then say he isn't a rat and he isn't telling. He's just keeping it real with investigators. Rich homie would also allege Thug was jealous of the relationship he had with Nut, as Thug wanted to control the Atlanta music scene and Nut was keeping Rich homie at a distance from Thug. This wasn't all Rich homie would speak on though. 2 pictures of the interview transcripts would make its way to News Made It. Rich homie would state him and Thug frequented or resided in the same condominium leading up to Nut's death and that they were cool. But after the murder, they drifted apart. 14 minutes into the interview, Rich homie would speak on his truck being shot up and immediately calling Young Thug, alleging his people were behind it. He'd then speak on his father's barbershop being shot up and knowing whoever did it had something to do with Nut's death. 4 months before Nut was killed, a gunman would open fire inside of a barbershop, striking Rich homie's father 4 times. The barbershop had just been shot up a month prior to this incident. Investigators believe the attack stemmed from Rich homie beefing with local rappers, but at the time, Rich homie Quan denied the rumors. Now speaking with investigators, when asked why his father would be targeted, Rich homie explained at the time, him and Thug were doing shows together, but he was getting the most money. They wanted his dad out of the picture to further control Rich homie's management, and they knew his dad was at the barbershop 24/7. He had no proof Thug was behind the shooting, but he did bring up an argument his dad had with Birdman. His father wouldn't share the details on what was said, but would later tell him, "We're gonna fall back from them." 22 minutes into the interview, Rich homie was asked why he wouldn't sign with Birdman, and he explained other artists are constantly complaining about their financial situation. He felt he'd make more money on his own, and then later sign. Rich homie would say that after Nut was killed, he didn't contact Thug, and Thug didn't contact him. Thug would move out of the condo about 2 weeks after the murder, and when asked why Thug called him bitch homie Quan 2 months after Nut's death, he didn't have an answer. Providing the investigator with Young Thug's phone numbers, the investigator asked if Thug ever made any threatening messages to him, but Rich Homie would state he's smarter than that. Roughly 30 minutes into the interview, the paperwork would be cut off. So realistically, we don't know how long Rich Homie sat down with investigators, but we do know he's on the YSL witness list. This leaves the possibility that Rich Homie would be called in to testify against Thug, as he'd have to recite everything said in the interview in front of Young Thug. So did Rich Homie Quan snitch? Absolutely. He's alleging Thug was behind the murder of Nut, the shooting of his father, and the shooting of his truck. Rich Homie would say he's keeping it real with investigators, and regardless of whether or not he portrayed a street lifestyle and abides by the street code, this is another major loss for the city of Atlanta, as another Atlanta rapper has cooperated. Now this is bad, and from what I heard from a source in Atlanta, the DA is trying to find out who's leaking all this, and they're trying to put charges on people for leaking this information, because stuff like this will make a witness not want to cooperate. And if a witness is like, hey, I just got exposed by so-and-so and they just released all this stuff that y'all said wasn't gonna get released, I don't want nothing to do with this, I don't want to testify, the courts can then charge that person with tampering with the witness. You just affected the case by fucking up a witness testimony. So this is getting deep. They're trying to find out who exposed YSL Woody. I guarantee you they're trying to find out who just released the audio to Rich Homie Quan. I feel that a lot of people are gonna have different opinions in this situation. Does Rich Homie Quan abide by the street code? I never heard of him having a gang affiliation. I don't really remember him talking about shooting people, this, that, and the third. He's saying a close friend of his was killed. He's willing to tell investigators everything he knows. He's saying his father was targeted and shot, and he himself was targeted and shot at. And goddamn, it's just like, who else is gonna tell? Who else already told and we don't know about it? I mean, they got mad names on the witness list. Even Lil Wayne and YFN Lucci. And Lucci just denied the deal they were trying to give him in his RICO case. So I can't imagine what they have that would make him a witness in this case. But in my opinion, just from what I read, since we don't know how long this interrogation actually was, we just know it was about 30 minutes, he did bad. He definitely did bad. Definitely didn't have to say all that, but made the decision to do so. I haven't heard a response from him after everything came out on the internet. I know that the night this video is being recorded, he's supposed to be performing at the same show as Boosie and Webby, and I don't know if there's gonna be any conflict from that situation. We're just gonna have to wait and see how this plays out. But hey, let me know y'all thoughts and comments in the comments section. It's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with y'all, and y'all rocking with me. Till next time.